Let me describe a couple to you and see if this feels familiar. They're both professionals, both educated, both working full-time. She works in marketing and earns about $62,000 a year. He works in IT and makes around $71,000. Together, they bring in roughly $133,000 annually. By U.S. standards, that places them comfortably in the top quarter of households. On paper, they should be thriving. They should be building wealth, maxing out retirement accounts, traveling occasionally, and feeling secure about their future. But that's not their reality. Instead, they're anxious. They're tired. They're living paycheck to paycheck, or at least close to it. Their emergency fund might cover a couple of months if everything went wrong, maybe. Last month, when their car needed repairs, the bill went straight onto a credit card. They both work long hours. Some weeks it feels like all they do is work. By the time they get home, they're drained. Most nights they only share a few exhausted hours together before collapsing into bed. And the most puzzling part? They did everything society told them to do. They went to college. They built careers, they got married, they combined finances, they bought a home in a respectable neighborhood with decent schools. They followed the rule book perfectly. So why does it feel like they're barely staying afloat? Why does earning six figures feel so fragile? If you've ever looked at your household income and thought, we make too much money to feel this broke, then what you're about to hear might explain everything. My name is Kai, and I spend far too much time trying to understand why modern dual-income families often feel more financially strained than single-income families did decades ago. If you and your partner are both grinding and still wondering why it never feels like enough, consider subscribing and hitting like if this resonates with you. Because here's the truth most people don't talk about. We were told that two incomes automatically mean a better life. It seems logical. If one person earning $50,000 could support a family, then two people earning that amount should support the same family with plenty left over. Simple addition. Except reality didn't follow that math. Instead, something very different happened, something that many economists describe as one of the biggest financial bait and switches of the modern era. There's actually a name for this phenomenon, the two-income trap. The concept was popularized by Elizabeth Warren back in 2003, long before she entered politics, when she was a Harvard law professor specializing in bankruptcy. She and her daughters studied thousands of families who had filed for bankruptcy, looking for patterns. What they found surprised even them. Having two incomes didn't protect families from financial collapse. In many cases, it made them more vulnerable. Households with two working parents were more likely to file for bankruptcy than those relying on a single income. Think about that. Working twice as much, earning more money, yet facing greater financial risk. That doesn't sound like a personal budgeting problem. It sounds like a structural issue. To understand how we got here, we need to step back a few decades. In 1970, less than half of women participated in the workforce. Most middle-class families operated on one primary income while the other parent handled the home. And here's what's easy to forget. That single income was often enough, not luxurious, but sufficient. A typical family could buy a home while spending around a quarter of their income on housing. Public schools were generally adequate regardless of zip code. Healthcare costs were manageable. Families could afford food, transportation, and still save something. Most importantly, they had breathing room. If the main earner lost their job or became ill, the stay-at-home parent could seek employment. The second income existed as a backup plan. Now, compare that to today. Dual-income households are no longer unusual, they're standard. In many families with children, both parents work full-time simply to maintain stability. In other words, what used to be the emergency reserve has become the default operating mode. Meanwhile, incomes did increase over time, but expenses rose much faster. Housing prices surged far beyond inflation, healthcare costs multiplied dramatically, childcare became a major financial burden because both parents were working, higher education costs exploded. So even though families earned more, the cost of living absorbed nearly all of that increase. The result?
Two incomes didn't create financial freedom, they became necessary just to keep up. And there's another layer most people don't think about: what actually happens to that second paycheck. Imagine one partner earns $70,000 and the other earns $50,000. At first glance, that extra $50,000 feels like a huge boost, but start subtracting. Taxes take a significant portion, often at higher marginal rates because the income sits on top of the first salary. Suddenly, the take-home amount shrinks substantially. If the family has children, childcare can consume tens of thousands per year. Transportation costs rise because both adults commute. That might mean fuel, maintenance, insurance, parking, or even purchasing a second vehicle. Then there are the hidden costs of time scarcity. When both parents are exhausted from work, they have less energy for cooking, cleaning, repairs, and everyday logistics, so they outsource. More takeout meals, more convenience purchases, house cleaning services, prepared foods, paid help for tasks that once happened at home. Individually, these expenses seem small. Together, they add up quickly. By the time everything is accounted for, that second income may contribute far less to wealth than expected, sometimes only a small net gain. Yet psychologically, the household feels affluent because the gross income number looks large. So major financial decisions are made based on that bigger figure. Larger mortgage approvals, higher car payments, more expensive neighborhoods, more financial commitments. Lenders evaluate risk based on combined income, assuming both paychecks will continue indefinitely. And that's where the real danger lies. Earlier generations had a built-in safety mechanism: unused earning potential. Modern families often use both incomes simply to meet fixed expenses. If one partner loses a job, becomes ill, or needs to step away from work, the household doesn't just tighten its belt, it may face serious instability. The margin for error has disappeared. Research consistently shows that a large portion of adults cannot handle even a modest unexpected expense without borrowing. Many of those households earn decent incomes. They're not struggling because they earn too little. They're struggling because their costs expanded to match their earnings. And most of those costs aren't luxury items. They're necessities of modern middle-class life: housing, healthcare, childcare, education. Housing provides a clear example. When dual incomes became common, families could afford to bid more for homes. Prices rose accordingly. Eventually, two incomes became required just to purchase what one income once could. The same pattern occurred in neighborhoods tied to strong public schools. Parents compete for limited housing in those areas, pushing prices even higher. It becomes a cycle where everyone spends more simply to maintain opportunity for their children. So what can families do? The common approach is to treat both incomes as permanent and structure life around these incomes. But there is an alternative mindset. Instead of building a lifestyle that requires two incomes, some families aim to structure essential expenses so they could be covered by one income if necessary. The second income then becomes a tool for building security rather than sustaining obligations. That might mean choosing a smaller home than the bank says you can afford, driving older vehicles, living in a good but not elite neighborhood, resisting the pressure to upgrade every time income increases. It's not glamorous and it can feel countercultural, but it preserves flexibility. Over time, savings accumulate, investments grow, financial pressure decreases. Eventually, the household gains something far more valuable than a bigger house or nicer car: options. Options to change careers, options to take time off, options to handle emergencies without panic, options to prioritize family or health when necessary. Because ultimately, the issue isn't just how much money comes in, it's how much freedom remains after expenses are paid. Previous generations often had less income but more resilience. Many modern households have higher incomes but operate at full capacity with no buffer. Two paychecks don't automatically equal wealth if every dollar is already committed. The families who achieve lasting financial stability aren't always those who earn the most. They're the ones who protect their margin,
avoid excessive fixed costs, and maintain flexibility. You can solve many problems by earning more, but you can't solve a structural trap if you don't realize you're inside it. Now you do. If this perspective changed how you think about money, consider liking the video and subscribing for more insights that challenge conventional financial wisdom. I'll see you in the next one.